Hello, hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Skeptics and Seekers Sunday Sermon. This is 4S. I'm David Johnson. Let's get started. Today, I would like to embark upon an effort. I'm going to make an argument, or try to make an argument, that's a little bit difficult. Now, I've made this argument in bits and pieces on and off over the years, and so I'm going to try to put it all together in one place, because I know that there are very few who have been with the show the entire time of the show. And so if I say something like, as I said before, that might refer to something that I said or wrote 3 years ago. So that doesn't work. And this argument is pretty important to me. It's a difficult one to make, and I may be unsuccessful. I'll just let you know now. But I have been trying to make it for a while, and it's hard to make it when it's all chopped up a little bit here, a little bit there. And so I'm going to try to put it all together. The argument is that the best Christian argument is the worst evidence for their claims, in particularly for God. The best Christian arguments, the best philosophical arguments, are the worst evidence for God or Christian claims, but especially for God. All right. Let me make sure that you understand what I am not saying. There's a fine point here to be understood, and it's kind of what makes it challenging and a little bit controversial. I'm not saying that you have bad arguments for God. Now, I personally think you do have bad arguments for God. I think they're all bad. All of them are bad. Some of them are less bad than others, but at the end of the day, they're all bad arguments for God. I believe that, but that's not what I'm saying here. I'm not evaluating the quality of any of your individual arguments. I'm not even evaluating the quality of all of your arguments taken together. That is not what I am saying. I'm not saying that you have bad arguments and therefore it makes for bad evidence. I am granting that even if you had good philosophical arguments, they would be the worst evidence for God. All right? I know that kind of rubs you the wrong way. Some of you makes you think about it a little bit. But this is the thing that I have been trying to say for a long time and would like to prove. Now, as you know, I'm not really the biggest fan of philosophy. I consider myself a barroom philosopher at best. I try to be a good, clear thinker. I am not successful all of the time in that endeavor, but I try to do that. But I don't really seek a heavier lift than that. I just don't care. I don't make any money out of philosophy. I have not spent my life reading philosophers, so I don't care to actually be a better philosopher than just a good thinker. And I do want to be a good thinker, but that's about all I aspire to. And good philosophy is way more than that. So, I think that philosophy is it kind of gets a bad rap from people like me. I think that Darren feels the same way about philosophy as I do. He may even feel a little bit stronger about it than I do, if that's possible. I don't think that philosophy proves anything. I think it's just a bad argument anyway. And so I want to make sure you understand that's not exactly what I'm saying either, though, even though I think that. So naturally, all philosophical arguments for God are bad if all philosophy is bad. That would be a trivial thing to say. I am saying that even if you had good philosophical arguments for God, it would be your worst evidence. One of the reasons that I feel the way I do, I don't want to speak for Darren, but I feel like he's expressed some things similar to this, is that Christians in particular, more than just Christians, but religionists in particular, and since I deal with Christians, I use Christian as a kind of a stand-in for religionist, they try to do more with philosophy than what it was ever meant to do. They try to do more than with philosophy than what philosophy is actually good for. And so that becomes a problem. Philosophy may be a good tool for some things. I will grant that easily. But the way it is used by religionists, it is a terrible tool because they're trying to stretch it to do things that I think good philosophy was never intended to do. And since that is my interface with philosophy, because I don't read philosophers, I just don't. So I don't encounter philosophers a lot unless I am doing some research for some Christian argument, right? That is my only interface with philosophy, and religionists, almost every one of them that I've ever heard make a philosophical argument, is using philosophy and stretching it to try to do more with it, improve more with it than good philosophy can do. And so it makes me want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if indeed there's any baby there, and just say the heck with it all. All right, that may or may not be fair. I don't know. But again, I want you to understand that's not the case exactly that I'm trying to make. I'm granting that philosophy is a good tool for some things. I'm even granting that you might have some great, fantastic philosophical arguments for your religion. And the very best philosophical arguments are still the worst evidence for your religious claims, especially evidence for God. Okay, I think that we have outlined, expressed, defined what it is I'm trying to argue and what I'm not trying to argue. Now to the business of trying to make this stick. Okay, the first point I want to make is that when you reach for an argument to prove a claim, you have only shown that you don't have the goods to prove your claim. That's pretty much what you have done immediately. Let me try saying that again. You have a claim, and to prove that claim, you reach for an argument. What that tells the hearer is that you do not have any way to prove your claim. You just have an argument. It's not the goods. Let me give you an example. Your claim is that you have a 6-foot-tall Saint Bernard. I love Saint Bernards. I've had a couple of them in my lifetime. Great dogs. Can be hard to train, but they're great dogs. They don't have a mean bone in their body, but they do have a big body. But I'm telling you right now, there are no 6-foot-tall Saint Bernards. If you said Great Dane, we could talk. Maybe Saint Bernard, yeah, they get pretty husky. They don't get that tall. So I'm sorry. Big dog, definitely in the big dog category. I'm going to immediately disbelieve you because I know something about Saint Bernards. But if you were trying to convince me that you, in fact, do have a 6-foot-tall Saint Bernard, and what you reach for is something with the word ontological in it, we're done. We are done. Teleological, we're done. We are so already done. I might nod politely, and we might have something like a conversation, but I am telling you now, there is no conversation. We are actually done. I don't even hear what you're saying at that point. I'm probably trying to, but I just don't. All I hear is, oh, you poor thing. You don't actually have any juice to back up your claim. So it's nice that you have claimed that, but you haven't actually done anything for me. So you've got a 6 foot Saint Bernard, and you start saying anything, even just logic. you're, you're done with your argument. Um, one thing that you might try, if you come from the school of Christians proving things that they can't prove, is turn the tables and put it on me. You might ask me, if it is not possible that it's true. Never mind likely. Just, can I refute the possibility of the truth? We are done. That's not my problem. Okay? You are trying to make it my problem that you can't prove your claim. So if after you tell me that you have a 6 foot Saint Bernard, and then you ask something about my state of mind, we are done. You have nothing. This has nothing to do with my state of mind. If you ask me, am I open to unusual ideas? We are done. You're the one with this 6 foot Saint Bernard. I don't need to be open to anything. Just where's your 6 foot Saint Bernard? So, but this is Christian Argumentation 101. Let's start talking logic. Strike one. Let's start questioning your state of mind, which in this case will be my state of mind. Okay, strike two. What's something else that Christians might try here? Well, they might try to quote a philosopher. So you've got a 6 foot Saint Bernard. Okay, you've mildly got my attention. And then the next word out of your mouth is something cited from Kant. Okay, we are so done. we're out. There's the next word you say after Kant is I don't even hear it, man. You're not making a case. You're trying to make an argument of some kind that is completely tangential to whether or not you have a 6 foot Saint Bernard. You're talking about logical structures, possibilities. You're talking about my state of mind and whether I am open to the the greatness of 6 foot Saint Bernardness. You're talking about something said by a philosopher, and I'm sure it was very witty. But what you haven't done is delivered a 6 foot Saint Bernard. So any kind of argument you put forward after making a claim just demonstrates that you do not have anything necessary to back up your claim. All right. Now, it may not be as bad of a situation as I'm making it out to be. Some people might be a little bit more charitable, but I've listened to these arguments for ages and ages and ages, and I'm pretty much done with charitable on this point. So let's just say, I guess being charitable, let's say that your argument merely shows that you cannot substantiate your claim, but it does not, in fact, do anything to harm your claim. So it basically leaves it neutral. It doesn't help it, but it doesn't technically hurt it. Okay, even if I grant you that, I would say that even then, that in practicality hurts your argument. Because you've made this giant claim, and then you said a bunch of words that didn't help your claim. That in and of itself hurts your claim. It hurts the possibility that the person you're talking to is ever going to take your claim seriously, because you've hit them with your best shot. That's it. And you can walk away saying, well, I didn't hurt my claim, but you did. You hurt your credibility. Maybe from a philosophical perspective, a logical perspective, you didn't hurt your claim, but you really, on a practical level, absolutely torpedoed your claim by trying to defend it with an argument. Okay, next. Okay, second point, I'm not a philosopher. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I guess a lot. I don't want anyone thinking that I think I'm a philosopher. I do not. I am never going to be a philosopher. I do not desire to be a professional philosopher, barroom philosopher at best. I'm fine with that. Now, there is a very good chance, Mrs. or Mr. Religionist, Christian, there's a very good chance that whoever you are talking to, like me, is not a philosopher. The argument that you are making, whatever it is, has some kind of formal structure that you are trying to use as a container to bear facts that you otherwise cannot prove. And the person you're talking to may not have read as much philosophy as me, and I am incompetent. So this is a problem for you. You are trying to convince someone with a philosophical argument, someone who is ill-equipped to understand it and or refute it. All right? You can beat me in a philosophical argument. You really can. It's been done. I'm pretty clever. I do okay as a very amateur logician, but honestly, I'm very beatable. If that's kind of the boxing ring that we're in, and we have to stay within those boundaries, and you are a professional philosopher, you're gonna win. And it's meaningless because I'm not a philosopher, nor really is anyone else you're talking to. So I am incapable, maybe not completely incapable, but when I say I also kind of mean the royal I am incapable of spotting the flaws in your formal logic argument. Can't do it. Didn't study it in school. Read up a little bit on it maybe after school. Been on a lot of boards, discussion boards, and, looked at the conversations of smart people talking about it who probably also weren't philosophers. They were more philosopher than me. Listened to some debates and gleaned a few things here and there. That's the best I got. I can't tell you exactly where you went wrong in your argument. If you did go wrong, you're talking to the wrong guy. All I can do is nod stupidly and say, okay, that sounds okay. I guess. Or I could nod stupidly and say, it doesn't sound right. I don't think I buy that. Either way is kind of stupid because I'm not a philosopher and I can't make that case. All right. I can't write a thesis. I can't write a dissertation on why you're wrong. And so I don't know why you're coming at me with that. If you've got some philosophical point that actually proves your argument, you should not be wasting your time talking to me. You should be talking to some peer-reviewed journal Why aren't you doing that? Why are you on the internet talking to people who are not philosophers? And by the way, it becomes pretty clear when you're not talking to a philosopher or even a really competent amateur. It becomes pretty clear. You recognize it. Sometimes, I listen to Christians debate. I've debated many Christians. It doesn't take long before they say, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Guilty. So why are you talking to me in this language that you know that I don't understand? What are you gaining from that? You think that because you can wow me into submission because I can't see the problems with your philosophy, that you have made a winning point in that you actually do have the goods, but I'm just too stupid to see it. No, that's not the case at all. First of all, philosophy will never give you the goods. But in case it does, and I'll just leave some room that maybe it does, it will only give you that with other actual philosophers. How many actual philosophers have you tried out your thesis with? How many? Or is it just discussion boards? It's kind of like when people come to these discussion boards with a lot of quantum physics or something very intricate about the cosmos. Some very fine point of astrophysics that's being hotly debated in the scientific community, and they come to a discussion board. Now, I love reading articles about this stuff, but when you come to a discussion board and you're trying to prove your point about God with astrophysics, the first thought that actually runs through my head, it's not, that's interesting, or that might be right, or that sounds wrong, is why are you here? There are no astrophysicists here. Hell, I don't even think that there are any bona fide science communicators here. So if you've got a scientific argument that actually stands up as good evidence for your God, you should be at minimum on Physics World, physicsworld.com. Go knock yourself out. Even that's not where you need to be, though. Okay, that's still too low of a reach for you. If you actually have the goods, you should be talking to the actual scientific community, because they can spot your bullshit and I can't. So you are wasting your time thinking that you are making some kind of point. Let's just assume you're right. You still haven't made any headway with your argument because you're talking to the wrong group. Now, I actually think it's worse than that. I think there's a kind of a gaslighting almost that's going on there. And again, it's a kind of a shifting of the burden, a turning of the tables. And I think it's a little bit sinister, and it kind of pisses me off a little bit, if I'm being perfectly honest. So let's say that you have spent a lot of time studying science and you are a pretty good amateur in the field, or you've studied philosophy and you're a pretty good amateur in the field. That's possible, I suppose. But you are well aware that I am not as versed in that as you. So the best that can happen is that you get me to agree that I cannot refute your argument. And I think the worst thing that could happen is if I believe you on the basis of your argument. Because now what you have done is you have convinced me on something that I've basically been conned. You've made an argument. You've made me feel like, well, I guess if I can't refute it absolutely, then I got to agree with it. And it may be a bad argument, maybe a good argument, but you know full well that I don't have the juice to make a good, sound decision with that. And yet you are trying to use that tactic, that lever, to get me to move my opinion. And you know it's the wrong lever to flip. And it's why you are coming to me with that and not to an actual philosopher. Because you damn well know you're not going to get anywhere with an actual philosopher. That's why it's dishonest. That's why it's a problem. That's why it's kind of gaslighty, because you're making me think, oh, well, did I hear a good argument? I guess I did. I don't know. It doesn't feel right, but I can't refute it. So I guess I don't know. Right? That's just sleazy. It's just slimy. Even if you are right and you convince me to agree with you, I still have not increased my knowledge. Because I've simply agreed with you for bad reasons. I honestly don't know why. I don't understand the intricacies of what you said. I just can't refute it. I guess you got me. And if you're using that to, maybe come on a board and embarrass an atheist, or come on a show and embarrass an atheist, or just kind of show your Christian friends, you see, the atheists don't have any good arguments, counter arguments against Christian arguments. Therefore, you should be Christian, is a dishonest approach. We're not philosophers. Most of us are not philosophers. And guess what? You're not either, right? So all you're doing is using a tactic to try to win a debate. You are not actually making a dent in the fabric of truth. There's no truth being conveyed to someone who can pick up what you're putting down. Okay. So, one, the argument shows that you don't have the actual goods to justify what you're saying. Two, a philosophical argument tried on someone who does not have the ability to spot the flaws is disingenuous at best, an outright con at worst. And there's more. Okay, my third point is that it makes the person, in this case the God that you're arguing for, look bad. Makes him look very bad, very sinister. There's something wrong with the God that you believe in, who is powerful enough to make the universe and talk to you and send you on the mission. And the only thing he's armed you with is some argument that you got off the internet or you read out of a book. That's all he sent you out with. And I'm thinking, what a dick. I mean, really, this is not to say that your God isn't real, or that he didn't send you out, that you're not entirely right about what you're saying. It's not it at all. But when all you have is an argument, there's no reason for me to believe that it's more than that. And furthermore, I think that your God is screwing with you. I mean, you gotta really ask why all he has given you is an argument, and he didn't even give it directly to you. So, he didn't give you the ability to walk on water, to dance on air. He didn't give you the ability to heal sick people, grow back missing limbs. He didn't give you any ability to do any of that stuff. All you have from this mighty force of the universe is a fistful of arguments. what is he doing? What is he doing? So let's try to think about this in a practical example, at least as practical as we can get it. So you are the subject of a king. There's a king in the land. The only problem is the land that you're in is peopled with folk who do not know that there is a king in the land. He has this kind of shadow rule. Oh yeah, he's a king. He's always been there. He really exists. And he really wants people to know about him. And he really does have the power that he says he does, the authority. He is the king. And so you know about him. Good for you. And he sends you out to spread the word. He's finally ready to make his presence known. This mighty king who's always been there and has the authority, he's ready to make himself known, and he chooses you. First of all, you, never mind me, you should question that king's judgment. I mean, he's got proper messengers. He chose you. Now, you just felt so glad to be chosen for something. Maybe you didn't stop to consider why he chose you. What made you so special? What made you capable of delivering the news of the invisible king with all the authority? Okay, but never mind that. You were dazzled. And so you say to the king, I'm there. Where you send me, I will go. I will spread your good news. May I please have the royal seal? And the king says, no. No, you may not. My grace is sufficient. Okay, but how will people know that I'm speaking of somebody real without your royal seal? It's a thing that can't be duplicated. Will you at least allow me to turn this here stick into a snake? Can you give me some kind of calling card? No. The royal ring? No. Can you give me a handwritten note with your signature? Maybe I can sell anything. No. My grace is sufficient. Now go. What, are you doubting me? Here's God gaslighting you now. You question me? You ask me for some kind of proof to show people? I just told you to go. When I say jump, you don't even say how high. You just jump, and you'd better hang in the air until I say that it's okay for you to drop. Don't worry about how it's possible. Go. That's kind of how this Christian idea lands. That's how the sermon is preached all too often. So you go out in the land. These people, they think they're a free people. They do not know that they are under a monarchy. And you say, excuse me, sir, the king sent me. You see, there's a king, and he exists, and he's actually a king, and he sent me to tell you that he exists, and also maybe pay your taxes. And then you look around and you notice there are a bunch of spikes with a bunch of heads on them. And the Lord looks at you and says, I have a message to send back to your king. It's a bad day for you. But don't worry. The king has said to trust him, even unto death. Right? This king is a dick. First of all, he chose you. You were ill-equipped to do it. He gave you nothing. nothing to show that he is real. You found an argument on the internet and you're just going there. God bless you. You're faithfully doing the thing. But doesn't it strike you as odd that he didn't even give you a seal? Nothing? Nothing? You've heard stories of this king sending out other people with powerful proofs of his existence. You see, you got to do 3 things here. You got to prove that he exists to people who don't know he exists. You've got to prove that he actually has the authority of a king. So even if he does exist, that doesn't prove that he's a king. So you got to prove that. And then you've got to prove that you are qualified to collect taxes on his behalf, that he has the right to collect taxes. That's a lot for you to do. And he didn't send you out even with an argument. You had to find it on the internet. You had to search your heart for it. So when you are speaking on behalf of this God with an argument, it not only torpedoes your claim just immediately, but it also poisons the well against your God. Because it makes the person you're talking to wonder if your God exists. Why did he send you out like this? Like, what was it? How did they put it in the Gospels when Jesus sent out his 70 and 72, like sheep to the slaughter? something along those lines. Yeah, you might think that's noble. I think that's sick. I got a few words for your king, if you could actually produce him. Okay. Finally, my last reason why reaching for a philosophical argument, the best philosophical argument is worse evidence, is because of the extreme stress and pressure it puts on the messenger. Okay, we kind of hinted at this before. When I was doing shorts mostly every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, I will get back to it, I promise. I would run across a lot of stories. One of the big themes was persecution. Christians always being persecuted, and you find some situations where some Christians who are ill-equipped to go out in the world and preach the gospel into every nation. Ill-equipped. They don't know the language of the place where they're going. They don't know the culture. They don't have the relevant documentation or authorizations from their home government or to the place where they're going. They have nothing but faith that they are out doing the bidding of the invisible king. And they go into, as at least one article put it, the most dangerous, not the most needy, the most dangerous places in the world to evangelize. And they get killed. That frequently happens. Shocker. They find their head on a stick, or worse. And so what makes them do it? Is it just pure mental illness? Oh, maybe some of that, but there may be something else too. What makes them do it? Because let's say that they really did have marching orders from this invisible king. Okay. But they've got this burden that they are carrying, and that burden is for your soul. You can't stop Christians from trying to evangelize to you. You know why? Because they love you so much. Because this invisible king has made it clear to them that the people you don't convince are going to hell. They are going to suffer for all eternity. Your family, dear Christian, your family is going to hell. These Christians, many of these Christians, they are desperate. They are desperate. They will do anything, face any danger to stop that from happening. And maybe some of these people, God bless them, they're just good-hearted people. And they look at the world and they think, oh my God, billions of people are going to go to hell if more people don't get out there and preach the good news of Jesus. I can't wait until I'm ready. I just have to trust God. I gotta go. If I don't go, these people are going to die and go to hell. And it's on me. And maybe God will look at me and say, enter in, you good and faithful servant. You know, maybe you are convinced that you're going to be okay. You're going to be saved. But your big worry is that you're going to get there and you're going to ask God, will you please have mercy on those people? I did my best. It was my fault. I didn't give the right message. I didn't have the right argument. Please. And God is going to say, oh no, those suckers going to burn. You come in, you good and faithful servant. You did exactly what I wanted you to do. Your family, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a new family. That old family, they're going to burn in hell. Those people that you went and talked to in that place in Africa where there are actually per capita more Christians than where you come from, they're going to burn in hell. Don't you worry about it. You did your job. These people are desperate to avoid that conversation, right? And I don't hate them for that. I don't hate them for that. I do wish they would see a doctor because there is something of mental illness there. But I'm not saying this to insult. I am saying that if you love me so much that you cannot leave me the fuck alone when I tell you to leave me the fuck alone, you have a problem. All right? And your problem may be based on love. And I might try my best to forbear, but you have a problem. And I understand your problem. Your problem is that you believe that you worship a God who has put the kind of pressure on you, the weight of the world on you, to go and do something that you are fundamentally incapable of and ill-equipped to do. This is what's happening when you are sent out to the field like sheep to the slaughter, armed with an argument to prove the existence and rule of your God and or other religious claim. There is simply nothing good or useful about an argument in a religious context when it's a religious/skeptic context. Nothing. You can never win any ground. You can win the argument. You can out-argue somebody, but you are never going to actually bring them to faith, to knowledge that your religious claim is true. You can't do it. Let me give you a word of advice. So, if you have this conviction that your God is real, good for you. Okay? I believe in a lot of things that are probably not real. So that's not a problem for me, that you believe something that I happen to think is not true. But if that's what you believe and all you're armed with is an argument, and yet you still feel compelled to go out onto the internet and make a case for what you believe, okay, good for you again. We love to talk, so let's do it. Here's your strategy. It's simply to say why you believe it. You can say, look, when they ask you for proof, I don't have any proof. I don't think I have any proof that's going to help you. All I've got is an argument. Okay? These are the arguments I've got. This is all I've got. So I can't prove it to you. I can't convince you. This is just what I believe and why I believe it. But it's just an argument. And if you don't believe it, I understand. This is the key. This is how to avoid the whole gaslighting, conning someone, pressuring someone into believing things for bad reasons. You need to make it clear that you can understand why a person who is hearing nothing more than an argument may not believe you. That will go such a long ways toward creating a much better conversation. In conversation with people like Jonathan McClatchy and others, in conversations with such people, I have often toward the end of the conversation ask a question to the effect, okay, I understand why you believe what you believe. Can you at least understand? Can you at least grant that it is reasonable that a person might not agree with you, that they might not believe in what you believe? And a few times, McClatchy is one of them, which is why I don't respect him. Andrew has had way more conversations with McClatchy and Andrew and Matt. If you want to hear some of those conversations, they like him pretty well. But I don't respect the guy because of his answer. His answer is no. No. He does not. He does not grant that someone who doesn't agree with him has a good reason not to agree with him. Because he's told him, he's given him the facts. And knowing what he knows, it is simply not reasonable to disagree with him about God, to disagree with him about Christianity. That is what he believes, he and others. That is what they believe. That creates such a barrier to conversation. It simply can't happen. So if you can just acknowledge, look, man, I know that you want an introduction to my invisible king. I don't have any of that. He didn't give me a seal. I can't heal your blindness. None of that. I don't know anybody who can. But I got these arguments. Would you like to hear them? Sure. Great. I understand if you don't accept them, but I hope at least that we understand each other better. You know, that's a positive outcome. That leaves the door open for further communication. But when you try to take those arguments and do something more with them than arguments were ever intended, and then you try to turn the tables to gaslight and con a person into believing that if you don't accept these arguments, that there's something wrong with you, well, now we have a problem. Do you disagree? I kind of understand if you do. This is not an easy argument to make. But at least now, all of these bits and pieces of things that I've been saying over the years is now in one place. And you can listen to this show and you can respond with your best arguments, skepticsandseekers.squarespace.com. Log into your Discuss account, discuss away, send me an email, skepticsandseekers@gmail.com. I really appreciate your emails, even the ones that I don't get to respond to these days. But every one of them, thank you. Thank you very much. Skepticsandseekers@gmail.com. Until next time, I will see you in the comments. And in the meantime, remember, your best philosophical argument is the worst evidence you can possibly present. I'm out.